So I kept going, I kept learning until I had my own car accident. That was like the breakdown of it all. Like that was like when everything that I knew about active rehab, pain management, chronic pain, all of that didn't work. What are you drinking?
I can't tell you what I'm drinking. I'm meant to be on the Coffee Chaos and Confidence podcast. I've I've got peppermint and licorice tea.
That sounds good.
It's because I've already had two coffees and it's 11 o'clock. So it's at that time when maybe I like to reward myself with an after lunch coffee. Do you drink coffee?
Not a lot. I love coffee, and we have this whole barista level coffee machine and like
Oh,
system in place. It's really hard not to drink coffee, but I find that it doesn't really work for my body. It makes me really anxious.
oh
I
wow.
can't metabolize coffee, and I know it really depends on like your body type.
Hmm.
For me, I like my right now I'm drinking raw cocoa powder with milk with
Oh, nice.
so yeah, that's what I do normally when I crave coffee, and I keep coffee for times that we have guests over or I'm going out to a coffee shop.
Oh, so you're like you if you got special china then, the when guests come around then you get the special coffee cups out?
No.
No.
I actually keep the special ones for myself. No, I share it with our guests, but I actually love fantasizing everything that I do, like making everything super cute. Like I love beauty interrupting our day a little bit.
I love that.
And yeah, and I love everything about interior design and everything that is cute. And, you know, it's just,
That's amazing, amazing. It's interesting when you said about it reacting. Well, how did you just say that? You said about how it feels with your body with coffee.
I get jittery and very anxious.
Yeah.
Um, I find like tea, especially like black tea, and I make it like Persian style with orange blossom and all of that stuff.
I literally, oh, as soon as you said I knew the next thing was like something cool. There was something like it's almost like yeah, like beautifying it. I love that.
Yeah, and that it gives me a really steady kick. I can
Hmm.
feel like my energy boosting, but I don't go up and like down like how I do with coffee. And I don't get that anxiety with tea.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why like there are a lot of studies on like some people don't metabolize coffee as easily. Like my partner drinks a few cups of coffee per day and nothing happens to him. For
Oh
me,
wow.
I'm like, no.
I am. I've actually. It must be about 6 months ago. Myself and my PT went tried to go caffeine free,
Hmm.
and I think he lasted 5 days and I lasted six.
Hmm.
I hate to say this, but I cold turkey for me with coffee was not a good idea.
Yeah.
It was a big drop, and I think that's why the reduction in it is, I tried to stick to no more than three a day. But in the morning, if I drink a coffee, and my problem is if I drink a coffee and it tastes amazing, I can instantly make another one and just drink it straight
That's
away because
the
it's just that.
creamy, perfect texture.
So I'm all about the black coffee and I'm all about like the flavor notes and I'm like I grind my own beans and I do a V60 pour over
Yeah.
every day. So everything about it is just like making it and yeah, my wife has she went through a stage of I'm not making you a coffee because it just won't be right. But then she almost kind of got into it. She's like, oh, it's got a good bloom, and I'm like, oh, and she doesn't
And I
drink
think there are
coffee
a
at
lot
all.
of ritual about coffee, right? That makes us even look forward to it. That's why, like, when I try to substitute it or find other alternatives, I'm like, what can I find that gives me that kind of ritualistic vibe towards it that I don't constantly miss everything about coffee or making coffee? And also finding substitutes that you're actually excited about drinking them or it creates some sort of a vibe for you. So yeah, like I stopped drinking coffee about 3 years ago. So and I remember that day because I was drinking coffee. I never made that association. Like my partner came to me and he hugged me and he started like touching me like this.
Hmm.
And then I started finding myself getting really annoyed, like as if this touch was like making me angry in a weird way.
What?
Like,
So kind of almost like rubbing your arm.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
something that oftentimes feel very pleasurable, and I love that he does
Hmm.
that. But then that day, like I had the coffee in my hand and he was doing that.
Oh,
I
wow.
finally clicked, like that moment clicked, that why like sometimes I feel this, like, this feeling of being like in my fight and flight, even
Hmm.
about the things that feels nice, and this they're supposed to be something that you're looking forward to. Or even around my work, I felt like I needed to get into this whole um getting ready for the day kind of energy, rather than arriving as you are. And yeah, I talk about that a lot in my work. Of I feel like for me, like performance or performing has always been something that I've done. And probably I recognize that over the past 2 years,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how often I get into that performative role rather than being myself. And I think coffee was one of the tools I was using to get into that performance.
Wow. What when you say getting into a performance then, because I love that, because being a musician and a performer, I kind of feel that. Like
Mm.
before whenever I do a show, if I'm playing, the my family know that I'm in like a meditative state from the outset on that day, and it's almost in a kind of quite selfish way. I kind of almost kind of go very inward so
Mm.
that then I can then be very like extroverting,
Yeah.
so what does that mean for you then? What is there a particular thing that you perform at? What's your performance? Oh, I love this.
You did the quiz, right? So, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think the quiz was very much inspired by my own journey around my posture, and also like that association to like our lived experiences, and how like as a kid I was always trying to be the good little girl, like
Hmm.
trying to play that role for a very long time. And then I immigrated as someone who didn't speak English as her first language. Like I needed to fake it till make it narrative, right?
Yeah.
And I often say, like, notice in your body. I have this practice that I talk about. It's called position of neutrality. Like thinking about, like now that I am trying to talk to Andy, like, or when I was thinking of coming in, there's this nerve coming in, right? So, or
Hmm.
this feeling of maybe excitement or whatever that is. And then would you get into like hyping yourself, like, you got this, you got this, you got this, or you feel like you need that to move
Hmm.
through that experience? Or would you feel that anxiety or that excitement and just allow yourself to arrive in the space? Like a lot of times that I run circles, like especially the past 2, 3 circles, I felt really down coming to the circle.
Hmm.
And if it was in the past, I would do breath work, I would do meditation, I would do like a lot of active stuff to almost like bypass or
Hmm.
move above that feeling that I had. But what I learned is when I arrive as I am, and I let go of the sense of control or performance or overachieving or making sure everybody have a really good time, which like I still do that. It doesn't mean like I never think about it, but I'm very much aware of like when I think about it, how my posture changes. And I used to be like extremely upright, like walking through life super straight. And then now I can see that in my posture immediately when I go into that role, right? And can I
Wow.
allow myself to soften and return to the I amness? Because I amness cannot be wrong. Like your I amness, like maybe that energy that I come into the circle is actually giving me capacity to hold more because I'm holding my own like suffering or my own pain rather than feeling that I need to fix people or I need to fix my feelings about that experience.
It's interesting because when you say that, I instantly have you seen the film Paddington?
No.
So in the second Paddington movie, Hugh Grant is kind of like a baddie in there, and he is. I don't want to spoil it, but okay, he's the guy who steals the book, and he
Mm.
steals Mr. Gruber's popping book, I think Mr. Gruber calls it. But he has all these different characters, and when they kind of get into his house and go into his loft, they see he's an actor, and they find all these different um, costumes that they wear. And my wife and I make quite a conscious effort now to read with my daughter, and I just recently finished David Walliams' book, which is a book all about a murder mystery on a
Mm.
cruise, and I won't say the name just in case anyone listening is like, oh my God, I didn't know it was that person. But the person who did all the murders was the person who was hiding behind all these various different outfits and costumes. And I just literally, as you've just said that in the performance, I just thought it's funny because when I show up and just be a musician or just be a bass player, and I don't have to. And years ago, I was a signed musician, but we had the eyeliner. We had to be. I felt like I was always trying to be someone else, and it didn't. It never really landed properly. Whereas, like when you do like this, showing up as yourself, and I've talked a lot this year about being unapologetically me. Um, and isn't it so much more empowering when you do just
Mm.
show up as who you are? Um, I want to roll back a little bit. You said you have. How did you say it? Do you say cacao?
Yeah, cacao.
Because that's one of those words that I always find, and it's interesting you said about learning, coming here, and learning English and everything. But like I find that there's so many words in the world that we all say very differently,
Yeah.
and cacao is one of those words that when I first ever had it, I was like, what is it? It's like it says chocolate, but it doesn't. It's like what is it? How do you have it? Because I know there's so many different ways. Are you just straight up cacao and milk, or do you have anything else in it? Do you put any spices in, or?
Mm. So I do cacao two ways. Like I have these ceremonial cacao that I only do them like occasionally when I do breath work or I set intentions. And things like that. So that's like the thing that, it's like chunk of actual like very raw cacao that you need
Mhm.
to cut and like blend and all of that stuff. But the one that I'm normally using is raw cacao that I buy from any store. And then I add some hot water, some honey, and then I steam some milk and add it to the top. I know
Nice.
sometimes when you blend it, it's going to be a little bit better. And if I feel like to spice it up a little bit more, I add some cinnamon to it, a little bit of a
Mm,
salt, and that's my drink.
nice. I was very kindly given a big bag of cacao a couple of years ago by a company online, and it was amazing because I just they he this guy I feel really bad that I can't remember the name of the company now, but they gave me this bag of cacao, and he was like, oh, how are you having it? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried that? And the game changer for me was a little like a couple of chili flakes,
Oh wow,
just
yeah,
to like
that would be amazing.
it was so amazing, and I was having it with oat milk because I actually didn't drink cow's milk for probably nearly 10 years, and I started drinking cow's milk this year, and actually weirdly feels so much better because of it. Um, but yeah, I had it with oat milk. So you've just as you were saying that, I was like, oh, I wonder what that would be like with cow's milk now. I bet it would be amazing.
Mm.
Be amazing.
So tell me, like, 10 years of not drinking cow milk, because I was the same. I was the same.
Wow.
Like, I was vegetarian and also for about 3, 4 years, even vegan, like for about 10, 11 years. And I shifted direction quite a bit over the past couple of years. And I'm curious, what was the change for you?
So mine was a as I tell I used to work my dogs on a shoot on a pheasant shoot, and we were queuing up to get um drinks one day, and there was a guy in front of me and or the guy behind me, and I said, "Oh, I'll have a white coffee, please." And the guy behind me said, "White coffee? You drink cow's milk?" And I went, "Yeah." And he went, I'm going to go very Devonian now." And he went, "I know what they put in their cows. You don't want to drink that shit, mate." And I thought, well, hang on a minute, you're a dairy farmer. And I had my coffee, and then, as I was drinking the coffee, it just tasted differently. I was like, this doesn't
Mm,
feel right. It was almost like, you know, I talk a lot about being in your right environments, and you take on what's in the environment. But because someone had said it, I was like, oh, okay. Um, and then I got home and I said to my other half, I don't think it's going to stop having milk. I don't think it's agreeing with me. And it was, I like to be fair, my gut wasn't feeling particularly great at the time.
mm,
I went to only having vegan protein powders. Um, and then I don't know whether it was Clarkson's farm or what the shift was, but my wife was making a cup of tea one day and I was like, oh, can I have it with milk? She looked at me and she went, cow's milk? And I went, yeah. I said, I just fancy, because I'd had oat milk for years, and it took me ages to find an oat milk that wouldn't just separate in tea.
Yeah.
And it was always like it made it always a little bit bitter, so I felt like I had to have extra sugar. But yeah, I shifted, and now it's like, yeah, I'm back on the milk.
Mm.
But when I say back on the milk, I'm also back in the sense now of from the beginning of this year. I think we've bought two, maybe three since January loaves of bread. We've been making all our own bread this year, and trying to get away from anything that's got too many ingredients
Processed
in it.
stuff. Yeah, too many. Yeah.
And we can see the difference. We can feel the difference. So yeah, um,
Yeah.
I did you ever watch the TV documentary? I think it was on Netflix called Game Changers.
Yes, I
It,
did. Yeah.
yeah. So I watched that and I was like, right, I'm going vegan. No, I'm going vegan. And I watched the same when I watched Seaspiracy as well. If you've watched that, if you haven't watched that, I still struggle to eat fish. Really struggle to eat fish now.
Mm.
Um, and so I was like, yep, right. I said, right, Kate, I'm going vegan. She was like, all right then. I said, I'm going to go and try and make a chia seed omelette. 10 minutes, all she could hear was every swear word under the sun. I was like, nope, 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 don't worry about it. Forget it. I'm still going to eat meat and eat eggs because I was like, I can't do
Yeah.
it.
I think what like, I was very much like proud vegetarian and vegan for a
Mm-hmm.
very long time. Like, I never fully like got on board with a lot of um narratives around vegan. Like, I would always call myself like plant-based, but I also, like, a lot of those studies, like, they never study what would happen in your body if you actually ate good meat that was properly, grown. The farmers were respecting the animals, and there was that communication between earth and the humans. And then you're not eating any other garbage food, because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people like eat meat and then they also eat fries simultaneously with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or there are a lot of like hormones and shitty stuff in our food. And then like, I never went on fully on like eating a lot of meat, or like, I generally don't eat a lot of like birds or like things like that, but I
Yeah.
love like, and I love meat. And I started craving for meat after 11 years when I got COVID. I started dreaming about eating meat. And
Wow.
one of the mantras that I have in my life: if my body says so, I listen. And then I started
Mm.
having dreaming about it, and I felt like I needed to have it to heal from COVID. And then that's how I started reintroducing meat back into my diet. And with fish as well, it's really hard to find wild good quality fish in the UK. Like,
Mm.
it's like, I lived in Vancouver, Canada, so that was like very easy. We had like access to a lot of wild like fish, especially wild salmon and all of that stuff. But I really struggle here in the UK to find good sources of fish.
I
Or
think the
also,
thing for me with fish is the fact that I surf quite a lot as a kid growing up, and as I got older, I've felt this. You know, you say about feeling it in your body. I've felt the ocean deteriorate. I
mm,
never had ear infections when I was a kid growing up. I was in the sea like I joke if I hadn't been in the sea within about 24 hours when I was a kid, it was unusual because I
mm,
was either in yesterday or I'm going in today. It was so to not go in and then a couple of years ago I was getting like perforated eardrums, infections, just horrible. Every I could go in with
yeah,
my daughter paddling, get my ears wet, and then it would be and I stay away from chemical shampoos, I stay away from chemical
yeah.
soaps, all of that kind of thing. And interestingly, actually, people on the podcast who's listening can't see, but
Wow.
sunburn,
Wow.
chemical free sun creams.
Yes.
Sunday I used my chemical free sun cream, which I've used for about 4 years, and I was at an event and it was quite hot on Sunday, and someone said to me, "Oh, they were using their sun cream." They said, "Oh, do you want some?" And I went, "Oh, I've left mine at home." Great, and I used it, and it's the first time I've been burnt like this in years.
Wow.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so we've switched quite a lot of the way we way we kind of almost what we put on our bodies in our bodies. So when it comes
Mm.
to things like fish, I've been a bit like, don't know
Yeah,
if I,
it can be tricky
yeah.
with a lot of things. I think I find like even like I was doing some research even from farmers on like chicken,
Hmm.
how hard it is to actually have an actual organic chicken,
Hmm.
that is not soy fat, like corn fat. And like I think that especially now that I moved to Cumbria, like finding good quality meat that is grass fed, they're not necessarily like marked as grass fed, but the farmers, how they're growing their animals
Mm.
and things like that. So I think now I have the luxury of having access to that a little bit more and trying to get all the stuff as much as I can. I'm like you, like I've switched all the products for a very long time. And sometimes it just makes me so mad thinking about that, how so many people don't know this.
Yeah.
And then when you think so hard about it, you become a conspiracy theorist. It's like, are they actually want to kill us? Are they actually, they don't care about what they're doing to our bodies.
Do you
And
know the thing you said about chicken? That's the interesting thing, actually. I think the only way to have organic chicken is to have your own chickens.
yeah, exactly.
I've
I
never,
agree. Yeah.
we had chickens up until a few years ago, and we only had, I think, two or three. No, hang on, we had, yeah, we had two or three white ones, and then we had two or three kind of like, we always liked having the crazy looking ones that like had like loads of feathers and stuff. So we had about six, I think, in total. The eggs, I've never had eggs like them. Even when we get them from the free range farm up the road, where we get, we get a tray of 32 eggs, and we go through a lot of eggs. But yeah, the home ones are just they're just better. They're just um, the thing that really frightens me is when we go into a supermarket now and you look at a chicken and there's two different sizes of a chicken, and I can't help but think the ones that are really small doesn't feel right because they're really small, and the ones that are really big, well, chickens aren't almost as big as a turkey, so there's something in that. Like I'm sure a normal chicken would be somewhere in the middle. Do you know what I mean? And it's always I always find that my wife and I were talking about this the other day. He's like, when you talk about various different energies and so forth, I feel like that's for me. It's like there's two very weird energies between those
Mm.
two sizes of food, and then you start going like, say, you're a conspiracy theorist. Like, well, that one's too small, so should that one have been killed? And that one's massive, so is that one on like steroids? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Hedi, you talk about helping your clients uncondition their bodies. Um, is that something that I mean, for anyone who's listening to the podcast, they can't see this, but you've got a skeleton in the background with a hat on. And I've been on a few calls with you over the last couple of months. And the amount of times someone's like, there's a skeleton in the background. It's just such a great talking point. And I'm keen to know a little bit more about how you got where you are and with what you do now. How did that kind of all evolve from, like you say, you came from not knowing English?
Yeah. Ooh, that's going to be a long answer. I would say life
Yeah.
really brought me to this point. And like, and also like just a small correction. Like we learn English, but it's very different
Yeah.
the way that you learn English than when you're actually speaking, especially like
Oh,
doing what I do. That is like pretty much talking all the freaking
yeah.
time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I have a completely different background to what I do. So I started my work in social planning, urban planning, and urban design. And that's what I did. And I thought that was meant to be my path for life. And I have a master's degree in urban design. And it was about 2016 or 2015. Like I was working in that field, but I wasn't really happy. I couldn't see how would I be able to thrive in this environment. And also consider that back then I wasn't this confident or comfortable in my own skin. I was very much trying to follow the path that was predefined for me, right?
Hmm.
And I always had this love for movement, like, and I would take so much joy out of movement that I was like, why other people don't feel like what I feel? How could they not enjoy that feeling of coming down to your body or the sweat coming out of your skin or like this
Hmm.
heat and all of that. And I always knew I wanted to do something with movement, but I didn't have the courage to go in. And I was so unhappy with my job and so stressed with my last job before I started my business, I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I take this opportunity now. I have extra money, so I'll sign up for a personal training certificate. And I did. And a year before that, I went through the whole training over a few weekends. And I also self-studied a lot back then too,
Hmm.
like just like I was very bodybuilding style training, like
Oh,
bigger
wow.
glutes, bigger muscles, like that was like the vibe, you know. And I even thought about like competing so often, but I never did it, and I'm so glad I didn't. But so I was like, okay, so I'm gonna start this whole thing. Like the funny thing is, as soon as I passed my exam to be qualified to like do this as a side thing
Hmm.
around my full-time job, I got laid off from my job.
Oh, wow.
I was like, what a timing! What a timing! And then that's how everything got started. So, and then I remember back in Vancouver, they have something like Work BC that you can get help to find another job, and it's a government funded program. I don't think they offer the extent that they did offer in the past.
Hmm.
And I remember I was talking to this consultant, and I was like, you know what? I feel like maybe I should explore like having a business or something. And she's like, you have so many experience in this field. How could you even consider that? And in a completely different field. I was like, you know what? I know how to interview. I know how to write resumes. Just give me like something that I don't have access to. And that was, I got introduced to self-employment program. So you would write a whole business plan. And if you get approved, you will get funding and training and all of that. This is like 2016.
Hmm.
And that's how I started working, and I started gaining clients like the first few years, and I was learning a lot. One thing that I noticed a lot from early on, and I always like look back, I was part of a lot of other personal training programs, and then I'd be like this, the problems that I had, personal training communities, and the problems that I had no other personal trainer encountered with their clients. It's like as if I was attracting clients that
Mm.
had certain issues that I couldn't find answers around typical construct of personal training or strength building. And I'm generally very curious by nature. Like I ask questions, I try to like find different ways. I started working as a physio assistant, getting really into rehab and joint health and all of that stuff. Still wasn't like sticking fully. Like I would get a lot of progress in clients, more than they ever had,
Hmm.
but I was very much bridging the gap between like doing physio and then wanting to go exercise in the gym or at home without having yourself injured. So that was like the gap that I was filling. So I kept going, I kept learning until I had my own car accident. That was like the breakdown of it all. Like that was like when everything that I knew about active rehab, pain management, chronic pain, all of that didn't work for me. So I was in constant pain. I felt like I was losing my eyesight on the right side. I was losing my sensation on the right side. And the accident wasn't even something crazy. Like it was, I literally walked out of the accident. Like the car was a write off, but it wasn't even an expensive car to say, like, oh, you know, like that was a serious hit. I didn't feel anything after that, but I was crumbling on the inside. And
Wow.
then and then I started going to typical stuff that I knew, like chiro, physio, all of that. Nothing worked. So that was my introduction to working with people who actually worked with um, in the neuro rehab space as well as nervous system space. And when I started experiencing them, I was like, it was like literally felt like water on fire. Like I would see my body like softening when I would work with those people. But the problem of me wanting to work out, like remember I said I enjoyed working out. That was a big
Yeah.
part of my life. Every time I worked out, I would have a flare up. And I'd be like, it's better not to even work out than working out and being in this amount of pain in the shoulders and in the neck and in all of that stuff. So that was like it was like I can't live like this. It's just, and then also this is my job. Like I can't even, like I would worry about lifting a weight and triggering something in my body later and paying off for it. And at the time I was working a lot in gyms and clinics and things like that. So during the COVID, when everything shut down for the first time, I was like, oh my God, I just really need this rest to just do nothing. But then I started like very much learning and studying a lot more about like what I was experiencing with concussion and with everything that was going on. And I got introduced to this whole realm of posture that I didn't know existed, which a lot of philosophy like exists in almost opposition with what the mainstream media continues to feed us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was like for the first time after 3 weeks of doing those exercises, I did a strength training and I didn't have a flare up. I was like, wow, I'm up to something. And then I started digging more and more and more and started hiring coaches and attending classes and things like that to learn more of that stuff. And then at the same time, I was also like working a lot with heart resonance energy. I was getting trained for becoming a therapist, which I don't really practice, but really fed into the underlying shame and guilt and all the stuff that I was carrying in my body. And like they
Mm-hmm.
happened simultaneously at the same time. And obviously that completely changed the way how I do movement. And I barely come across, like, I barely say, oh, I'm a personal trainer. Like I teach so many different things now. And I certainly struggled with like finding where I land, but I realized when I looked at my body and my own life, it was like, oh my God, everything was about me unconditioning from the shit that I learned, from the stuff that I've been told that I should be or I shouldn't. And I really believe that when we drop all of that stuff, both from our bodies, our minds, our thinking, or not making our experiences wrong, right? If I'm not having energy and I'm here, like I could be just here, or I could think about, I should have more energy. I should talk better, or I should talk about the things like that will impress Andy or his audience. You know what I mean? It's like that narrative that making my experience right now wrong. And that's pretty much what I do now. And I had a lot of
Wow.
stories around my voice coming up as like everything that I've been through as a woman and coming from a culture of oppression. And yeah, so and that's
I love that. Do you know, I didn't know that you were a personal trainer.
yeah.
So bizarrely, in the lockdown, were you in the UK for the lockdown?
A part of
Or
it,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in the lockdown, there was that moment where for me and my business, we just went bang, everything just crashed. And I remember there was a similar kind of scheme where you could kind of do some, help you get back on your feet kind of thing. Everything was opening at that particular time. A lot of our business was around the wedding industry, and that still hadn't really opened. People were cancelling for, photographers and videographers because they were like, we're only allowed 10 people at our wedding. Like, we'll take our phone pictures, and we don't want someone that, we'd rather have, our uncle there who's got a camera than the photographer there who counts as one. So, um, I did my wife and I did a level two fitness course at the
Mm.
college. We were going to do our level three, and to be fair, we just didn't do it because of we've both got so much experience in the fitness world that we've both trained for years and years and years that we kind of were like, well, actually, we don't really need this. We were kind of almost doing this, and as it happened, I jumped in and worked in a gym for about a year, a couple of
Mm.
years ago, just purely just to use it. And I was doing 1 or 2 hours a week, and it was actually a great like way of kind of connecting with people. I love what you said about when you were saying about the like the kind of going back afterwards and kind of still feeling that pain. Did you find that was actually? Do you feel that was a pain from maybe the accident, or was that? Do you think that was like your body telling you in a different way? Because I'm a massive believer that sometimes if we tell ourselves we're limping, we'll start limping. So
Mm.
do you feel that there was any kind of resistance there from that accident? It's like, well, I can't do this because I've had a car accident. Was
Mm.
there anything there, do you think?
No, actually, like I didn't believe that I had a car accident because I didn't believe anything happened. That was
Oh,
the
wow.
problem. So the conflict I was experiencing was because I didn't acknowledge that did happen or it did something to me.
Right.
So now I really have come to like a conclusion that it's not actually always about your thinking of that scenario.
Hmm.
Yes, that could be like one of the elements, but we often say, oh, pain is in the mind, like, or you're
Hmm.
thinking about the pain and all of that stuff. But from the nervous system standpoint, it's the matter of safety. So how safe do you feel in your body? And I shared like my before after photos a lot. And you can see how I wasn't feeling safe in the way I was orienting myself in the space, in the like nervous system level, in the posture level. And
Mm,
when you are not feeling safe in the body, yes, you're more likely to think, like allowing those thoughts to come through a lot more easily because you're under resourced. And I see oftentimes when we actually work with the posture from the nervous system lens and from that safety lens, then people automatically start feeling more energized and start feeling better and thinking better thoughts as a result of
mm,
that. But I don't think it's all in our head, because I was very good at not letting it get into me.
yeah.
And that wasn't necessarily the reality that I actually experienced. And let's say if someone like constantly hyperextending and pushing through life, right? So they don't have a lot of stuff going for them. They can't connect with the ground properly. So there's that lack of safety there. So they
Mm,
have no core stability whatsoever because they've been trying to be upright all the time. Or like if they have that tension in the neck and their breathing is not optimized for the posture, or they don't even have a posture for proper breathing, then
mm,
that's a whole system not being working optimally, and that
yeah.
creates a lot of other nervous system responses or stress responses in the system.
Amazing. I've definitely felt not okay in my body. I 2017, 2018, I went from 105 kilos. The lowest I got, the lowest record I've got on my fitness power is 79 kilos. So I went down by, my brains can't do that
Oh,
maths, but it's like,
half,
yeah, it's like
almost half.
20, 26 kilos, I think it is. So, um, and I have never felt like when I look at the photos of me, I can't look at them now because when I see them at the time, I remember thinking, oh, I look great, but I felt like really, it felt like here, like everything felt like uncomfortable. You know, I
Mhm.
was always tired. I'd done such a depletion of everything. Everything would, I was drinking loads and loads of water to the point that, Southwest Water probably were going to send me an extra bill, but I was on a super low calorie deficit. Everything I was eating was good, but I just wasn't eating enough. And I just got to a point where, and I never, ever, ever felt in a moment where I didn't feel okay in my body. But when I felt like, and this goal in my mind was, let's lose some weight, and I went to that extreme, people were saying, bloody hell, Casey, you're looking skinny. And as a guy, the guy in me was going like, well, I don't want to be the skinny guy. I don't want to be like
Mm.
small. I mean, I'm like, I always lie and say I'm 6 foot, but I'm just that tiny bit under 6 foot. So I'm like, I've never felt like I was small, but everyone was telling me, oh, you're skinny. And I never, and it's funny when I go back to that kind of moment when I think about it, everything about my lifestyle was wrong because it wasn't what was right for me.
Mm.
But now, now I do lots of various different stuff, although I don't train in the same sort of way these days. Now I feel like because I'm more kind of open to exploring different avenues, I feel like it's kind of I'm 104 kilos right now, and I've never
Mm.
felt more confident. I've never felt more like okay with my body.
Yeah.
Everyone has that moment where like, oh, I wouldn't mind tightening up a little bit, or actually, yes, maybe I shouldn't have drunk 6 coffees today because I'm feeling a little bit wired. Um, so how do you do that then with what you do now? How do you do that? How do you transfer that into like when you work with clients? How do you work with clients now?
So the way I work with clients, oftentimes like client find my work on like different platforms, or they attend my experiences and they're like, oh, something clicked for them, something that they didn't
Mm,
know that could possibly be the answer. And oftentimes people who find my work, they're not people who are just looking for weight loss or looking for like just feeling better. Like they already tried so many different things. Like
Mm.
oftentimes the clients that come in to me, they already have a healthy lifestyle. They worked with a functional medical doctor. Like they know a lot of stuff already. So it's not that I'm covering the basics for them. Like it's so fascinating to me because oftentimes when you look at like other people, oh, people don't stick to a routine or people don't do this, do like it's so funny. Like 95% of my clients, they don't have any problem with sticking to something or doing the
Mm-hmm.
best that they can. The problem
Mm-hmm.
is they know something is off and they don't have an answer. And like, let's say like a recent client, she's like, oh, I do like yoga all the time, or I strength training. Like every time I strength train, I get injured. And every time I need to do yoga to feel a little bit less stiff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the video that I have about posture and why we get stiff, that was like, that really landed heavily for her. And I'm like, and she was like, oh my God, like I just, for the first time, like, oh, maybe there is another answer for me to discover. So when they come in, obviously they go through a lot of questions and all the stuff that I need to know about their past. And then we start with an assessment. We go through every single joint because your emotional landscape, your posture, your experience shows in the way you carry yourself in your body. So we go through literally every single joint in the body on the internal rotation, external rotation, all of that. And then that will give me an insight on what their like survival pattern is, like what they feel naturally been driven to because of life, because of the choices,
Mm-hmm.
or because of the lived experiences that they went through. And then that's from that lens, I start from the survival element, which is their breathing. So, like you breathe 20,000 reps a day. And if I can optimize that and teach you how to optimize that, I already gain a lot of
Mm.
um, feedback or the best kind of reward from the effort that we're already putting because you're already breathing anyway, right?
Yeah.
So we look at where the missing link is in their breathing mechanics, and then from that I tie that into their core stability because the way you breathe directly affects how your core works.
Yeah.
And then that gives me two things. So we start, like oftentimes people will start with specific breathing mechanics for them and for their body type based on the assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, so my whole goal is to create safety in their system, depending on what they're dealing with or what their problem is. And then when I feel like the body respond pretty well, like when I get them to exhale, I can see that integration in the core. That's where I introduce weight. And then still the strength training happens through the lens of their postural need. For example, if a client is already carrying a lot of tension in the shoulder and the neck, for me, getting them to do shoulder press, it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If they don't know how to stabilize the core, like they're actually loading more of all the stuff that is going on here, and they get into more of a freeze afterwards. Or
Wow.
let's
Yeah.
say, or let's say if a client already stuck in extension, probably I wouldn't get them to do back row to start with.
It's kind of like you wouldn't have earache and listen to loud music, would you?
What's that?
You wouldn't have ear if you had earache, you wouldn't listen to loud music. So why would you
Yeah.
put more tension in that area? And as soon as you said that, it reminded me that I've been doing a lot of chest press and a lot of shoulders, but yet I'm here in my traps, and then right in the middle of the my shoulder blades, and
Yeah.
I work that all the time.
Yeah.
And that's the bit where I go, but I've worked on that, so it must be getting stronger. I work there, I'm getting stronger. Why am I still sore?
Yeah. Especially like, let's say if, especially because you have that tension. I didn't do an assessment on you, but what I can say based on what you're telling me is, especially if you tend to load heavily on the chest press, there's that extension happening in the body,
Mm,
right? So you flare up the chest a little bit to feel those muscles when you're pressing.
hmm.
But what happens is, I can imagine you're probably already in extension. So that even because you're strong, I might not take that away from you. But what I
Yeah,
would do, I would bring the load down and I get you to do alternating chest press and focusing on the breath and the rotation of the rib cage. And
yeah,
what this does is opening up like taking the load off of that back rib. Or probably I would put you in positions that you're more flexed when you're doing the chest press. But if I show that or I demonstrate that in a public view, they're like, oh, what is wrong with her? Like, she doesn't even know how to do chest press. No, I actually know how to do chest press.
Yeah.
But I also know that you don't need that, or
Yeah.
not the way that traditionally we've been taught, right? And so there are so many like adjustment for me is like where they feel safe in the breathing, where I can get the optimal breathing mechanics going. And then from that, it's all playing with the gravity to put them in a position that allow them to continue breathe optimally while they're on the load. And that's why so many clients come to me, they're like, oh, I did strength training and I got all that stuff going on. But then we do it this way, and then they start seeing the progress and the strength they're building. And
Yeah.
even now, if they go to a yoga session or a Pilates session or another random strength training session in their gym, they're not feeling scared. They actually get to feel the right stuff working because they know how to stabilize the system as a whole.
I had to untrain myself. I used to hold my breath for about 3 reps. So I used to get myself almost a bit confused. It was like, do I hold my breath when I go down? Do I hold my breath when I go up? When am I exhaling? And like years ago, I was going like,
Yeah.
and you know the reason I think I did it is because I used to do it a lot when I was surfing. Because when you get to a point of panic, normally
Yeah.
a wave's coming, you'll hold your breath for a long time. So it was almost like I was using it as a defense mechanism, but actually it was really affecting me. I mean, not only was I feeling really bloody dizzy afterwards, but yeah, it was amazing how just by actually changing the way I breathe and almost what I actually did, the way I did it is I broke it down. So I would do 1 rep and come
Mm.
back up. And rather than going like I'm doing, think of it each rep as each individual rep rather than I'm going to do 10 reps and go like,
Yeah, totally.
yeah, because my cheeks would come out and everything would be, yeah. So I love this, Hedi. For a split second, and I'm not gonna lie, I forgot we were doing a podcast. I was like, oh my God, like, yeah. So, Hedi, how can people kind of find out more about you and kind of learn a bit more about what Hedi does? And I mean, I took your quiz this morning, and as I said to you that um, before we started, I was arms up against the wall, tucking my pelvis in.
Mm.
I was like, and working on my breathing, and I was like, literally, I only did this myself 10 minutes before we did the started the recording, and I thought, oh my God, this actually makes me want to kind of do a bit more like work on this myself as
Mm.
well. So. Obviously, you've got your quiz, but how else can people kind of find you, and how else can people work with you?
So they can find a lot of resources on YouTube. Like this past 2 years, I made a commitment to make my work as accessible as possible.
Hmm.
And so especially if they're interested on the posture front, I have a whole massive playlist on my YouTube that you can go and watch and
Hmm.
educate yourself on that. And there are plenty of exercises that you can get yourself started from.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you want to work with me one to one, you can find the link from my website, from the work with me section, or even like in the description box of my YouTube channel. I also do a lot of sessions on Insight Timer. So I
Uh-huh.
do a combo of, I also love somatic work. So I teach somatic work, and you experience that. And I also, you wanted to show me something. Don't forget to show me that thing.
Oh,
You
what was
told
I
me
going to
like when
say?
we started it, you said like I want to show you something, but then you got distracted with recording.
Oh my God, I wonder what that thing was.
It was something to do with well-being circle, I think, or like something, or
Oh, that's what I was going to show you. I was going to share with you. Thank you. I'm glad you reminded me because this is just a proper big up for Hedi because one, I love what you do. I experience your wellbeing circle um, once a month at the moment. And I feel like I want to explore more kind of working with you in many different ways. But um I do my quarterly goals, and I don't like the word quarterly goals. I've realised it sounds very corporate. But
mm,
I was working on this quarter's goals this morning, and I get very much in the zone of kind of like I normally put like surf videos on or something on in the background, something that's just kind of like completely not noise from the media or anything like
mm,
that. Try and put my phone down. And yeah, when I was writing my well-being goal this morning, my well-being goal was I always break my well-being goals down into different things that I want to do. So I'm actually going to try and do a couple of different things this quarter. In the past, I've done the last one was 90 days social detox, which
Mm.
was a real struggle. And when I say social detox, the social detox for me was um, my daughter leaves for school at 8:15 in the morning, and I wasn't allowed to go on any social media platform until
Mm.
8:30. So I was breaking that time up. And do you know what? I saw the difference, definitely saw the difference in myself, our relationship with my daughter. And then likewise in the evening, switching off all those noisy social media platforms from
Mm.
sort of 7 o'clock in the evening. Um, that was the last quarter's well-being goal, and that was I think I managed 65 out of 90, which for something that I was really like really struggling with, I'm actually quite surprised I got to 65 because
Mm.
we all know what it's like when you're self-employed. The phone goes off. Hedy just like my post. You're like, oh, what
Yeah.
does that mean? Oh, oh, oh. That was actually LinkedIn telling me that she liked it 3 days ago. Thanks, LinkedIn. Nice one. So for this one, I'm going to try and break them down. So within my well-being, I've fallen out of the gym in the last couple of months, and I've kind of just made a bit of a gym decision while I'm on this call, but I'll maybe share that with you in a minute. Um, after we've pressed stop on the record, that is. And um, so I'm gonna do something with regards to fitness, but I'm gonna try and kind of put 5 key elements of wellness in a week.
Mm.
And I thought, how can I make them different? And the one I wrote down this morning was to make sure that I go to every wellbeing circle with you for the next 3 months. So I was like,
Yay!
I wrote that down this morning, and then I was like, oh my God, yeah, I'm seeing Hedi in a couple of hours. I was like, oh yeah, that's weird. And I'm actually a little bit late on doing my goals this quarter. I'm normally, when it comes to the beginning of the quarter, I'm ready because I've got my planner that I've created, and my wife and I both use the same planner each time. And I'm normally going, oh, so what, Kate, what you got any ideas of what your goals are going to be this quarter? And she's way ahead of me. Like, and it definitely comes from that, like, kind of don't tell them, show them. And because of
Mm.
my own experience of doing what I've done, yeah,
Yeah.
she's like burrowing away with all her goals. So yeah, that was what I was going to share with you. That one of my goals on this quarter was to. So if you don't see me, you might have to be my accountability and give me a slap and say, "Where are you?" I actually
I
did.
will do
I
it. And
I
you have
always
such beautiful grounding masculine energy in the room. And every time you show up, I'm happy that you're there. And I really feel like we all need that grounding energy, especially in the circle, right? Like I always see myself more as a participant and someone who holds space, but also the kind of people who are showing up in the circle can really define the quality of the circle, the quality of the energy and the conversations that are happening in the circle. And I really love when you show up.
thank you and thank you for doing them. But do you know what? I feel like you've just said something there, which has just made me go. I'm a big believer in certain, like we were just saying about you being conditioned to say certain things. I actually think you don't hold space. I think you allow space.
Mm.
And I think that's what's more beautiful about it is you allow people to be free. Um, I love the movement part. I definitely used to be a bit self-conscious about that kind of
Mm.
thing, but now I'm just like my eyes are closed. I'm like, yeah, I'm just like dig in whatever I'm doing, and the I know you talk about the rose and the thorn, but I've shared that, and I'm going to do an episode in a couple of weeks about ripple effect, and I may have already done it by the time we do this one, but actually, um, but the ripple effect for me is like I've told maybe 20 people about rose and thorn since working with you.
Oh
So
my
so
God.
potentially there's like 20 people out there who are going, oh, actually, what's my rose? What's my thorn? And
Mm.
I know that's not a potentially specifically something that you do, but it's because of the way you brought that. And so
Yeah.
yeah, so that's something I think it's really beautiful that the way you do that and the way you
Mm.
allow space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
I like that. That felt
I,
quite
I wrote
freeing.
I wrote that allowing space, and also about the rose and the thorn. Like I learned it from one of my favorite mentors that I ever had, and in business and in life. So I'm going to give credit to her. Her name is Ariana, and yeah, I learned that from her and the way she held the space for me so many times. And I borrowed that from her. I'm sure she borrowed it from someone else, but
Yeah.
something that really landed for me. And yeah, I'm glad that it's landing with you and you're sharing it.
Amazing. Hedi, thank you so much. One for showing up for everyone that you do, but also for coming on the podcast today. I'm going to put all your links and so forth in the show notes below as well. I've got one question for you before we go. I thought of this question this morning. If you already knew the answer, what would be the question?
If you already knew the answer, what would be the question?
I love
How would
this.
you move?
How would you move? Hedi, thank you so much. You've been an absolute superstar. Um, I love that question. It may be staying in the podcast. Hedi, I will see you soon. Thank you so much.
And that wraps up today's episode of the Coffee, Chaos and Confidence podcast with me, Coach Casey. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you like and subscribe. It helps other listeners find the show. Also, go and check out the show notes to learn more about my incredible guests. Until next time, make sure you chase your dreams without limitations.